Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, and we are meeting once again with lecture 16 of our course Business English. Well, in today's lecture, as I promised last time, we are going to talk about report writing in detail. So this will be a detailed talk, inshallah, about the report writing from process to the product. Well, before we start, we need to define for ourselves what is a business report. Well, business reports are systematic attempts to answer questions and solve problems. They include the following activities. That is planning, and that is obvious for all written documents. Research, however, is something that we do not do all the time, except we are doing some research-oriented documentation. However, for reports, research is always very important. Then we have organization of our material that leads to the presentation, the final product of the report. So from planning to presentation, it involves so many steps that we need to take very carefully. Now, reports, everyone writes reports all the time, everyone writes it, and most reports flow upward. Most reports are informal. 3 reports formats: memo, letters, and manuscripts are most common. So now we are talking about the manuscript format, that is report format. We have already talked about memo and letters, and the third and the final product we are going to talk about is manuscripts report. Reports differ from memos and letters a lot. Today's reports are written on computers. Yes, they are always now written on computers. Some reports are collaborative efforts and some are done individually. Ethical report writers interpret facts fairly, and organization is imposed on data. The writer is the reader's servant, so you are basically serving reader's comprehension and making sure that reader is able to understand it. What are the functions of report are very important to know, because that will be that will set the premises for you to understand how should a report be written. So the reports are analytical. The reports, you use letter format, memo format, manuscript format, and printed forms. Writing style, as we discussed in our previous and many of the previous lectures, that they can be formal or informal. Audience analysis and report organization are 2 very important factors, because they play important role in making your report acceptable or otherwise. So in the success of a report, these 2 things play significant role. If readers are informed, then you can direct your use a direct pattern of information, and that is report, and you start with the main idea. However, if your readers are supportive, you can use a kind of direct pattern, and this will lead to a main idea. So readers are informed or readers are supportive in both the ways. In both the situations, you can use a direct pattern of report that will be starting from the main idea. In the third situation, if readers are eager to have results first, that depends on the needs of the readers, then again you will have a direct plan and you will have the idea and the results first. So in all 3 situations, you will follow a direct plan when your readers are informed, when they are supportive, when they are eager to have results first. So you will start with the report that is a direct pattern of providing the results of the report in an executive summary. However, if readers need to be educated, that will lead you to follow an indirect pattern of report writing that starts with the report first and main idea in the beginning. Again, if your readers need to be persuaded first, you again needs to have an indirect pattern of report writing that will lead to the same kind of consequences. And the third situation is if readers may be hostile or disappointed, then again you will have indirect pattern to lead your readers where you want them to be led by you. So in 3 situations, when your readers they need to be educated or informed, they need to be persuaded, or then they are hostile or in disappointed state of mind, you need an indirect plan of a pattern of report writing that leads to a different pattern of report. Now, applying the writing process, I told you that all technical documents, business technical documents, they follow a writing process. And there are stages that you follow in order to produce a well composed and well informed and well written document. So these steps are a bit more specific when you are doing report writing. The very first step in report writing is that you analyze the problem and the purpose and scope of this report. And then you anticipate the audience and issues. This is very important because you are in the stage of making decisions and making your plans to be directive plans. The third stage would be preparing a work plan, and stage 4 will be you implement your research strategy. Whatever the research you are going to do, you need to apply some kind of strategy. We will have detailed discussion about research strategies in business. Then you have to organize, analyze, interpret, illustrate the data, and then compose the first draft or report and revise, proofread, and evaluate your draft before you send it over to your readers. Now, what is a work plan for a formal report? Well, a work plan for a formal report involves the statement of a problem. You need to know what is the problem, and you need to state it down on a paper to see what are the important areas that you need to pay attention to. A statement of purpose is very important because it does not only make the readers clear about what you want to achieve, it makes you conscious of the decision, what do you want to, what kind of outcomes you expect from your report. Then you define your resources and methods of data collection, you make a tentative outline of the action plan, you schedule your work, and you're ready to research and collect data. That is quite a challenging task that you are getting into. For that, you need first of all, you need your secondary data. Now, I'm using two terms here, secondary and primary data. Well, secondary data is the data that you get from already printed or already published or already shared material. This can be books, this can be articles, journals, newspaper, documentaries, anything that has already been forwarded by, published by somebody, recorded by somebody will become your secondary data, and you are getting benefited by the data that has been collected by someone else. However, the primary data is the data that you get into the field by yourself and you collect data. It's a hands-on collection of data, and you are the one who is collecting it for the first time. So you start with secondary data first to find out what is the research material that you can be benefited for this particular project is available in the field. Maybe you can use internet for that purpose and go into Google libraries and search and get into articles and read books. You can get into the physical field of your data. If it's about your office, you can get into research and records. You can find out the information that is supporting your document, your decisions, your plans, and collect information. You can talk to your peers and your colleagues over there, and their interviews, their point of views, and their comments. They can be also they can also play important roles in collecting data, how people think about and how people they want they make their comments about your decisions and your point of view. So all these things basically help you collect your primary data. So you locate your secondary data which are usually books, card catalogs, online catalogs, periodicals, print indexes, CD-ROM indexes, and anything that is already published or shared officially. Locating secondary electronic data can be electronic database. It can be either the worldwide cybernet, or it can be your official database, the internet. Worldwide wide web search tools are Google, MSN Search, and there are several search engines nowadays that can be used for this purpose. However, the most common are Ask Jeeves, Yahoo, Google Search, MSN Search, and then you evaluate your web sources. It's very important because not everything that is shared, that is said, or that is written on the screen or on the paper is authentic. So you have to make sure that the material that you are using to support your case has to be authentic and reliable, so you can use it for that purpose. And how can you evaluate web sources? How current is the information? How credible is the author or source? What is the purpose of the site? Do the facts seem reliable? And if you can get answers to these questions and they support that, yes, that's true, you can use some data. Now, I can give you some tips to search the web when you are searching web for the secondary data, because that's something very obvious that we all do. Whenever we get an assignment to do, or whenever we get a topic to talk about, or whenever we are trying with somebody, the very first thing that now we do, and thanks to technology for this thing, that we open up a computer, we open a search engine, Google, MSN, Yahoo, or any of the search engines, and we type into it and see what people say about it, what is the material available on that. So you can use 2 or 3 search tools to authenticate your, and ensure the reliability of your data. You can understand the case sensitivity. Look at the context where that tool has been used, and look at the context that you are studying, and see what is the common between your situations, and if you can use it or not. So you have to make wise decisions while using some data. You prefer uncommon words, and try to look into them, that what is different that makes them uncommon, and that may take you into the deeper thing into that context, that again lets you decide whether you need to include it or exclude it. You omit articles and propositions, and when you are doing your web search, you can search by a word that is uncommon, and you can omit articles and the, a, an, or propositions, and look for the main words in your search that you are searching for. Use wildcards. On the internet you have wildcards option to avail, and you can use it, and you know your research tools, and it is always better to be friendly with your research tool that you are using for your search. So only if you are comfortable with your research tools, you'll be able to search all the possible directions that you want to. Learn basic Boolean search strategies. You need to learn basic Boolean search strategies when you start using internet for your secondary research. Bookmark the best pages. You cannot read all the pages. You cannot include all the information. So how to shortlist your information is that bookmark all the pages that you think are relevant, and then later on skim through the information, and then find out the most relevant information, and then you can select the most relevant information for scanning and extensive reading. Be persistent. Well, at times you start very energetically, and your first few days are very full of energies, and you try to jump into things and find out what is happening, but slowly and gradually you start losing your interest, or you try to be satisfied whatever you have collected so far, and this data may not be enough. So try to be persistent, and try to design your work plan, and delimit your search, and find out what are the areas that you need to research and search about and collect primary, secondary data on, and try to keep a constant check on whatever you are doing and whatever you need to do. So it's a close correspondence between what you are doing and what is required to be done. So you are on the track, and you will not get distracted, and you will not get demotivated. Whenever you would achieve something that corresponds with the need checklist or requirement checklist, you will feel motivated that you have achieved something, and you will set up your next target. Try to always set your targets achievable, short term targets, so you can achieve them, and then can see whether what you have done so far and what you need to do in the future. Repeat your search a week later. Always, if you are searching newspapers or any material that keeps on getting updates, try to do that on alternate times, and leaving some time in between, and then going on to the same engine again, and same place again, and checking again for the updates. So you have a collection of things related to same task, same opinion, or same country, or same topic that you are working on, because you are and try to stick to updates, because if that is important for the nature of data that you are collecting. Now, researching primary data is again another very important aspect of your research process. Well, I'll be discussing research process separately again. It's going to be entirely separate field of this topic of discussion. However, I'm discussing research because report writing involves a lot of research as well. Researching primary data is important, and how do we research primary data? We do surveys, we do interviews, we do observations, we do experimentation, and we do all these four things sometimes together or individually to collect our primary data. Now, illustrating report data, you need to have illustrations of your data. Now, after collecting your data, you need to present your data in your report. And how do you present your data? You analyze your data, you put your data into the document, and you try to illustrate it with graphs and with with different kind of visual aids in order to make it better comprehensible for your reader. So functions of graphs and all the graphics that you use inside of visual aids are basically to clarify your data, to condense and simplify the information, to emphasize some part of the information that you want to. For example, a chart or a graph would show something particular on axis to draw readers' attention. And forms and objectives of graphics are different most of the time. Like table, they show exact figures and values. Like you can look at the screen and see that in the tables you can always use your menu bars, like you can see class, agree, disagree, or undecided. You can show the categories of people you are taking your opinion from, whether they are seniors, juniors, freshmen, or sophomores. And this many percentage has agreed, this many percentage they disagreed, and they remained partial or impartial or undecided. So tables are always good to show figures and values. However, bar charts are used to compare one item with others. So if you use a visual aid in order to provide comparisons, you better need to go into charts and explore what charts you can use for this purpose. Like it's a bar chart, and you can always see that these bars enable you to have a clear contrast and comparison between four items that they are showing. First quarter, second quarter, third quarter, and fourth quarter. It shows that enrollment was maximum in the first quarter, in the second quarter, in the weeks. So moving on, we will see that what do these line charts help us do? They demonstrate changes in quantitative data over time. Look at the curves and moves of these lines, and these line chart will tell you what trend the move is following, whether it's falling down or it's rising up. You remember we discussed the terminologies and vocabulary related to movements to read inside a chart. So they demonstrate the change in quantitative data over time. So whenever you are dealing with the data that deals with quantitative research, and there you have to track changes and you need to demonstrate them, you can go for line chart. Now, pie graphs this is another kind of visual aid, and they are good for they are good to utilize, visualize a whole unit and the proportion of its components. So if you are trying to find out, trying to show the whole thing the entire of your image into one image, and then you want to show how many of them disagree, agree, and you want to focus on one aspect. The pie graphs available, they give you this opportunity to do this by picking up one of them. And one interesting thing is that now with this technology, you are able to use these pie charts on in Microsoft Office, whether you are working on MS Office or you're working on MS Word or a PowerPoint or Excel sheet. So, and then you have different animations and styles available where one thing stands out, and you have 3D animation. So there's a variety of such things available with the help of technology that you can use, and you just need to put in the data, and these figures will be created automatically. It is that you have to select which figure, which graphic or which visual aid you would want to embed here in your document, and you'll be able to generate them automatically. Then you have flow charts. Flow charts are always good to display a process or procedure. Look at this flow chart. For example, receive is the very first step that is taking place, and test and reboxing, repair, restock, shelves, floor, ship. So look at the shapes of these. They carry some meaning. Look at the flow of the action. Look at the move of the action, moving upwards, downwards, and these linking lines. They show the movement. Sometimes it is one-sided movement. Sometimes it is two-sided movement. Things is moving back and forth. And look at the eventual product shipment. So basically, with the use of colors, with the use of lines, with the use of shapes, and with the use of dimensions, you can again enrich your graphic in meaning and can really communicate what you need to do in order to clarify on your data and make it simple for your readers to understand. Then you have organization charts. You can look at this organization chart. It shows a kind of hierarchy of items, and this is used to basically present a kind of hierarchy, like president is supervising sales and designs, and production vice presidents, which are again supervising managers of different managers and foremen, and they all are connected. And then it shows the same place, same status of supervisionary status of some action. So flow charts are always good if you want to present some kind of organization of idea or people or institutions. Hierarchy of elements. So photographs, maps, and illustrations, they are good to create authenticity, to spotlight something, a location or an idea or an individual or a phenomenon, and to show an item in use. So look at this picture. It's a picture of a map. Then with the use of colors, you can differentiate on in the places, and by using different shapes, again you can specify on something. Look at this pie chart. Now this is a very small exercise for you to look at the pie chart and see how can you read it. Look at the title. It's about income by division, and this relates to 2006 MPM income. MPM stands for some kind of particular, it's an acronym for some word. So always try to use words if you try to make it understandable for a larger audience. Look at the key on the left hand side that shows three colors. Green is theme parks, orange is motion pictures, and purple is DVDs and videos. So how much you are generating from theme parks is $32.3. How much you are generating from motion pictures, $22. And how much you are generating from DVDs and videos, it's $24.3. So the bigger chunk, the green chunk that is separated from the rest of it, tells you that the maximum profit is coming from the green item, that is theme park, and that is playing the main role in generating the income in 2006 by this company. Now, although these paragraphs are the facilities available that you can use this technology assisted paragraphs, however, if you have to design them on your own, you need to take care of a few things when you are designing paragraph, because you use paragraphs to show a whole and the proportion of its components. So generally begin at the 12 o'clock position and drawing the largest wedge first, and computer software programs, however, may vary in placement of wedges. So include, if possible, the actual percentage of or absolute value for each wedge. So use 4 to 8 segments for best results. Otherwise, the segments will be very small to understand or too tiny to notice. So try not to have more than 8 or minimum, maximum 4 parts of your pie graph. However, you can have 2, 3, 5, 6, 7 for a best comparison or contrast. If necessary, group small portions into one wedge called other. Distinguish wedge with color, shading, or cross-hatching. Keep all labels horizontal and keep a consistency when you are labeling it, but don't label something horizontal, something vertical, something tilted. So try to keep labeling in one direction so it's easy for reader to understand, because after all, your aim is to facilitate your readers' understanding. And if you are creating any trouble for your readers, then it's again the same thing, that you are adding into their trouble. Look at the vertical bar chart and try to understand it. Try to read it rather. The figure 1 shows that there are other figures except this one. It's figure number, and the second label is basically figure title. Look at the formatting. The title has all the letters in capital case, so you can use it, or you can use the sentence case where first letter is capital and the rest of the letters are in the lowercase. Now look at the axis. Look at the y-axis and x-axis. You can see scale value, and you can see the scale captions. So in scale captions, you have theme, motion pictures, theme park, motion pictures, and videos. And in the scale value, you have millions of dollars. And this gives you very clear idea that theme parks are generating more income than motion pictures and video in a particular year, that is 2006. So the source note in the bottom gives you an idea where this has been taken from. So if you are copying some material, you always need to provide some kind of source to avoid plagiarism. So that is how you read a bar chart. Bar chart makes visual comparisons, and they make them very easy to notice very quickly. They can compare related items, illustrate changes and trends in data over some time period, and show segments as parts of wholes. So bar charts may be vertical, may be horizontal, grouped or segmented. Avoid showing too much information in one bar graph, thus producing clutter and confused information, because again, your aim, remember your aim always, your aim is to facilitate readers' comprehension and understanding, not to confuse them. And the length of each bar and segment should be proportional. Dollar or any percentage amount should start at 0. Maybe if you are using standard or international currency, or you are using the national currency, whatsoever you use, try to use it from the 0. Try to make your scale from the 0 so it's easy to understand and follow. Now, after knowing these different techniques of and different anatomy of report, and knowing what your report is made of, and how do you go through different parts of different stages of writing a report, and how do you put different types of data inside, verbal data and visual data, you need to know how to finally document your data inside a report. So you need to know that the reasons for crediting sources, why you are using some sources and why you are not using the others. So if you are preferring some kind of sources to take data from, you should be able to provide reasons and logics for this if you are asked. It strengthens your argument of why, if you have information, it strengthens your argument why you have picked up this particular source for this data. It gives you protection. If you're questioned, you're ready for you're ready with your answer. If you know the reasons, you are able to instruct readers, and you can anticipate the questions and can embed the answers in the text before providing it to readers. Learning what to document is very important, and again for that I will take you back to the very beginning of the talk, where we said identify a certain things: the problem, the purpose, the background, the audience need, and however, apart all these things, you can always have a cross-check by asking people about about their ideas, their opinions and examples or theories. So you are involving a broader spectrum and applying it on your work to see it from different angles, and again it is to broaden your spectrum. Any facts, statistics, graphs and drawings that are not common knowledge, you can put them inside your data to enable your data to stand as that has something unique to offer to its readers. Quotations of another person's actual spoken or written words, you can always bring them in. However, all of your work should not be based on quotations. Some people use too many of them into one text. We always have a limit of, if we do not cross more than 12% or maximum 15% where we can add this primary information that we are using as quotes, or we are using other person's remarks or comments. So it should not exceed, the total should not exceed the 12% of your entire document. And even for that you need to provide some sources where from you got these quotations, or you need to source them so you're not caught for plagiarism. Paraphrases of another person's spoken or written words, well, it's always advisable not to quote as it is always. Always try to interpret that and try to paraphrase them and link this with the thing that you are discussing, to let the readers know that you have analyzed it instead of copying it from somebody's, and you're using somebody's words as it is, and that all the time during your report writing. So in documenting data, you need to learn what to document, and then you need to learn how to document that. Manual note-taking suggestions, when you sometimes, or rather most of the times, people, they prefer note-taking. People who are in habit of writing with their hands and who are not really conditioned of using computers, they prefer note-taking. But recall all major ideas when you are taking notes or making notes. Do not postpone your detailing your notes later on, because sometimes you write in abbreviations and you write short forms and you make some figures on your paper when you're noting data. However, when you delay the making your detailed notes, you forget the ideas, and always record all major ideas from various sources on separate note cards. Don't mix them, don't combine them, otherwise later on you get confused. Include all publication data along with precise quotations, and consider using one card color for direct quotes and a different card color for your paraphrases and summaries. So giving them color identities for you to later on decide and find out easily what you are looking for in your rich data. Maybe it's a big box of the items, and if you need a direct quote, you can pick up a color and you can write it down. Electronic note-taking suggestions. Begin your research by setting up a folder on your hard drive that will contain your data, and you can create separate subfolders for major topics such as introduction, body and closing. And when on the web or in electronic database you find information, you may be able to use highlight and drag with your mouse, and the passage you want to save, copy them using Ctrl+C, paste them using Ctrl+V into documents that you will save in appropriate subfolder. So copy pasting is good to keep a record of the data you want to go through, but as far as your report is concerned, do not try to copy paste directly over there, because that is straight plagiarism. Be sure to include all publication data, and consider archiving on a zip disk the folder pages or articles used in your research in case the data must later be verified, because at times when people are collecting information and they're in the process of writing their report. They are doing it, but when they are reaching the final stages, they somehow lose their data, and then they get into a severe panic and they start having panic attacks, how to retrieve that rich data that they collected so far. So always keep a backup, and so you can access it later on. Learn to paraphrase. That is very important. And that cannot be done just like that. It's a skill that you need to learn. Read the original material carefully and always make notes on the paper. Try to have a dialogue with the text on the paper, with something in your head, and keep writing your notes so that you can comprehend it fully and you understand it. Once you are done with that, try to put it aside and try to take your notes. Now try to write it in your own words with the meaning that you generated, and this is the paraphrased item that you created for something that you just read. So again, you have to mention the source. Even when you are paraphrasing, you cannot call this mine, because this is someone else's work and you are giving it a different interpretation. Write your own versions without looking at the original, like keeping it aside, and do not repeat the grammatical structure of the original, and do not merely replace words of the original with synonyms. Some students, what they do, they try to deceive their readers, and they try to be clever by providing synonyms for the major terms and words, and a little bit changes in the grammatical structure. So do not do that. You're not to deceive your reader, but you are to let them understand that you understand the situation and you can talk about it, and that you can produce your own meaning. So take the responsibility of being the owner of your product. Reread the original to be sure you covered the main points but did not borrow specific language. So documenting data is always very sensitive when you are paraphrasing. Be wise, be honest, and be clear and to the point. Two documentation formats are that this MLA format, Modern Language Association format, and American Psychological Association format, that is APA format. So you can look both the guidelines for both of these formats are available online. They are free of cost. You can download them, you can go through them, and you can see normally the demand for a format is solicited. If you're writing a document for your office use or for your academic purposes, if you're generating these reports, you're often told that what documentation format you need to use. However, if this is unsolicited, you don't have any requirement, you can use any one of these for that is you feel more convenient to use, or you're more skilled at using. However, one tip to use your documenting, your formatting style is stick to one only. Do not make it a combination or a hodgepodge of two, because that will not work at all. Okay, with this talk, we have reached towards the end of our talk regarding the report writing, and we have discussed report writing in different dimensions and the different details about report writing. And now it's time for our listening exercise. Next, however, the next lecture is going to be a bit more details of report writing, and unless you're prepared to go through a step-by-step workshop of writing a report and you are able to produce your own reports, we will have more sessions regarding research, and how to get yourself involved into research and research reporting, and we will discuss all these things separately in detail. So this was all for today's talk regarding your subject matter, that was report writing for today, and now you are moving into our listening exercise of the day. So let's start. Okay, like always, you're ready for your listening exercise, and you can look at the screen. Screen has the detail of your question, the very first question. However, before you listen, you need to match the words and phrases to their synonyms. And then you need to look at the antonyms for the following words, and then you will listen to the BIA's interview, and you will put the following sentences in order that you hear in the first instance. So before you go for your audio listening, look at the screen and look at the words in the list from 1 to 5 and the synonyms given from A to E, and try to match the words and phrases to their synonyms. The words are independently, in-house, application, carry on, afford. Take a minute and do that. All right, I hope you're done by now. Now look at the second question that you're supposed to do before you listen to the activity, listening activity. Get into the listening activity is what are the antonyms for the following words? And antonyms means opposite. Upgrade, undercharge. All right, take a minute and do it. All right, so now you seem ready to start with your listening activity of the day. You are going to listen to Bia, and you are going to listen to interview to put the following sentences in order in the question 3. You can see 6 sentences on the screen, and here you go to listen to your audio.
I work independently, not in an office. I work in my own studio. I can communicate with the people that I need to by conference calls or email. Mobile technology has been absolutely fantastic for freelancers. If I don't need to be at my desk, I take my mobile phone with me and I can be contacted at any time. Otherwise, what I do, the job that I do, is exactly the same as what my role would be in a company as a graphic designer if I were employed. Right. Well, it involves a lot of computers. The first thing I do is check my email and then answer whatever needs to be answered. I look at my diary because I will have written in what needs to be done in order to meet deadlines, and open the appropriate application, and I look to see what now needs to be done next, wherever it was that I left off. The role of a graphic designer is to take probably a Microsoft Word file from an editor, and I use a page layout program, then import the editor's text just as words, and then I change what the editor has given me and make it look exactly like you would see once it's printed in a book. Then you have to move the material around on the screen a lot until it fits. I like making things look good. Some people are very aware of appearance, and you've heard that you can't judge a book by its cover, and yet a lot of money goes into designing covers because the first impression, the appearance of something, does unfortunately make a difference as to whether or not you pick it up or whether or not you find it inviting or comfortable. And a lot of the work that I do is for students, and students there's a lot of other things that they'd rather be doing than studying. So I need to make it look as easy and comfortable for them to use as possible. So appearance is very important. Dislikes. I'm afraid I do not like having to deal with technology. Technology is not about appearance. Every time there is an upgrade to whatever, whether it's hardware or software, so many other things have to change at the same time. It takes nearly a week to get back up to speed to where I was before. So it feels like a downgrade. So that's the hard part. The other thing I also don't like doing is keeping track of my hours and invoicing, because you have to be very, very careful. You don't want to overcharge your clients, and you don't want to undercharge either. So you have to keep very careful records. There have been a few times when I thought I would love to have in-house technical support, and it is those times that I think of looking at the ads. So that would be a reason. But I would lose so much in terms of my time flexibility. My roommate is employed, and so I see her get up in the morning, I see her go to work, and she comes home at about 5 o'clock, and she has the rest of the evening to herself, and she can go out and do whatever she wants, and she does not need to think about what's happening at work. I might have days, weeks, sometimes even months, where she has seen me at the computer when she goes to bed, and she has seen me at the computer when she gets up. And then there will be days when I have the day off and I go into town and I come back and I'm my own timekeeper, whereas she has, it's a lovely day, but she has to go into work. And all things considered, it'd have to be a very high salary, I think, to get me back in-house. Ask me again the next time there's an upgrade. I do love the job, and the actual arranging the material on the page is not difficult for me. And I love playing with fonts. So I will probably carry on doing this job as long as I can afford a computer, afford the upgrades, and as long as people still want me, I'll probably carry on doing it.
Okay, here you are. So you are done with the first part of your question, that was listening to interview and reordering the sentences into the right structure. Now you're going to listen to the part of the interview again, and you will complete the following question given under question 4 and given under question 5. And here you go.
I work independently, not in an office. I work in my own studio. I can communicate with the people that I need to by conference calls or email. Mobile technology has been absolutely fantastic for freelancers. If I don't need to be at my desk, I take my mobile phone with me and I can be contacted at any time. Otherwise, what I do, the job that I do, is exactly the same as what my role would be in a company as a graphic designer if I were employed. Right. Well, it involves a lot of computers. The first thing I do is check my email and then answer whatever needs to be answered. I look at my diary because I will have written in what needs to be done in order to meet deadlines, and open the appropriate application, and I look to see what now needs to be done next, wherever it was that I left off. The role of a graphic designer is to take probably a Microsoft Word file from an editor, and I use a page layout program, then import the editor's text just as words, and then I change what the editor has given me and make it look exactly like you would see once it's printed in a book. Then you have to move the material around on the screen a lot until it fits. I like making things look good. Some people are very aware of appearance, and you've heard that you can't judge a book by its cover, and yet a lot of money goes into designing covers because the first impression, the appearance of something, does unfortunately make a difference as to whether or not you pick it up or whether or not you find it inviting or comfortable. And a lot of the work that I do is for students, and students there's a lot of other things that they'd rather be doing than studying. So I need to make it look as easy and comfortable for them to use as possible. So appearance is very important. Dislikes. I'm afraid I do not like having to deal with technology. Technology is not about appearance. Every time there is an upgrade to whatever, whether it's hardware or software, so many other things have to change at the same time. It takes nearly a week to get back up to speed to where I was before. So it feels like a downgrade. So that's the hard part. The other thing I also don't like doing is keeping track of my hours and invoicing, because you have to be very, very careful. You don't want to overcharge your clients, and you don't want to undercharge either. So you have to keep very careful records. There have been a few times when I thought I would love to have in-house technical support, and it is those times that I think of looking at the ads. So that would be a reason. But I would lose so much in terms of my time flexibility. My roommate is employed, and so I see her get up in the morning, I see her go to work, and she comes home at about 5 o'clock, and she has the rest of the evening to herself, and she can go out and do whatever she wants, and she does not need to think about what's happening at work. I might have days, weeks, sometimes even months, where she has seen me at the computer when she goes to bed, and she has seen me at the computer when she gets up. And then there will be days when I have the day off and I go into town and I come back and I'm my own timekeeper, whereas she has, it's a lovely day, but she has to go into work. And all things considered, it'd have to be a very high salary, I think, to get me back in-house. Ask me again the next time there's an upgrade. I do love the job, and the actual arranging the material on the page is not difficult for me, and I love playing with fonts. So I will probably carry on doing this job as long as I can afford a computer, afford the upgrades, and as long as people still want me, I'll probably carry on doing it.
All right. I hope you are done with your answers of these questions. So let me quickly share the answers with you so you can check how right you are. All right, please move on to your question number 1. And here you had to match the synonyms. And your answers are C for independently, independently on your own, in-house in a company, and application program, carry on, continue, and afford, have enough money. All right, so you need to have antonyms for upgrade and undercharge, and your antonyms are upgrade is downgrade, undercharge is overcharge. And the correct order of the sentence is okay. The very first sentence is the difference between being a freelancer and working in-house. Okay, so let me tell you the right order of the sentences. The very first sentence is a graphics designer's job, Bia's comparison with herself and her housemate, and then what she doesn't like about her job, then a typical day, then the difference between being a freelancer and working in-house, and then why Bia likes her job. All right. So you are going to now you are going to check your answers for question number 4 by circling the correct information for question number 4. And the correct information is a phone, number 1, number 2, email, number 3, conference calls for A part. Now B is making things look good and hates. 5 is you have to do true and false. The first one is false, second is false too. She does it for students, not pupils. And third is true, and fourth is a true statement. So this was all for today's listening activity. So let us quickly review what we have covered today. Today's lecture was a detailed lecture, the first detailed lecture of the series regarding report writing. Because it is going to take a couple of lectures to go through this discussion topic, because it needs some time, and we also will have to involve understanding of research process with the report writing to take them both together simultaneously to understand it completely. So in today's talk we discussed the format, the anatomy of report writing, parts and procedures, search process and research process, what are the techniques, types and strategies, and we also learned how to report research data and illustrate the information that we need to provide in order to support the data we are documenting. And then we had, as usual, we had our listening activity. For these 2-3 lectures, lecture number 16, 15 and 14, we didn't do a separate language activity because we have incorporated your previous language activities into these lectures, so you can apply your language knowledge. As in today's talk, we talked about the synonyms and we talked about the antonyms and making you reorder the information, listen to it. So your language activity is, when it is not there individually, it is embedded inside your listening skill or your lecture activity. So this was all for today, and I will see you in the next lecture, inshallah. Till then, Allah Hafiz.